Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to my Zoom presentation on antibiotic resistance and our performance improvement plan to help the situation. My name is Cheyenne Alfred, and I'm going to be leading the presentation. As most of us may already know, antibiotic resistance is when germs or bacteria gain the ability to resist the medication being used to treat it, and this issue is becoming increasingly common within the healthcare industry. In this next slide, we're talking about the causes of antibiotic resistance. Antibiotic overuse is one of the biggest ones, and it is, as it says, bacteria is evolving to resist due to the frequency of its use. There's also dependency issues that can come with this. As soon as someone gets sick, they're depending on antibiotics, which also causes overuse. And then we have spread. Resistant bacteria can also be passed from person to person, so we need to be aware of our surroundings as well as keeping clean, which leads to hygienic factors, such as dirty environments, not washing our hands enough, not being in sterile or clean enough environments, and unfinished treatments. It tends to happen where patients start taking their medication and they feel a little bit better, so they tend to not finish treatments, which also causes antibiotics to come back, and then they're back on the same cycle of they're sick, they're using antibiotics, they're not finishing their treatments because they're feeling better, and it goes right back to another dependency issue. The last thing I wanted to talk about was lack of new antibiotics. Unfortunately, science can't keep up with how fast bacteria is evolving, and this leads us to almost essentially what's a race. We're trying to keep up with how fast antibiotics is evolving, and we can't. This is a big issue because it can cause severe durations of illnesses, meaning that, as I explained earlier, people are taking antibiotics, feeling better, and unfinishing treatments, which brings them back sick and in need of care, where we have to reissue antibiotics, and this time it may take a longer time to treat. And because we are sending these patients home with antibiotics and they aren't finishing their treatments, it's a nasty cycle that keeps going round and round, and it's causing a wider health crisis, and it causes epidemics, pandemics. It also makes pandemics and epidemics worse. As we've seen in COVID, people are getting sick, their immune systems are weakened, and they're having to depend heavily on antibiotics. It makes treatments less effective, and it prompts longer usage of these types of antibiotics that could have, once upon a time, been very quickly treated and was a minor issue. What I propose we do as a company to reduce the risk of our patients becoming sick with antibiotic resistant bacteria is ensure all employees are washing their hands regularly. Hygiene is one of the most important tools that we have to be able to combat these types of resistant bacteria, and it should be taken very seriously. I also recommend that we are making sure all tools are sanitized, all desks, lab equipment, anything that we are putting in patient rooms needs to be sanitized and clean. Every time a patient leaves and re-enters a room, that needs to be sanitized and clean in between patients. I also recommend wearing proper PPE. I know that we always try to follow PPE guidelines, but there are some times where people just forget, and we need to reduce those risks, as well as handling high-risk materials. We are often, as people in healthcare, dealing with bodily tissue, bodily fluids, and just working with hazardous material all day long. And I highly recommend when we're working with those, we are being extra cautious. And education is one of the most important tools as well. We need to make sure that everybody is aware of the issues that are happening so that they can go in knowing what they need to do and how to help us stop this issue. I know some of you may ask, well, how do we measure this? And it might be a bit challenging how to measure exactly how antibiotic resistant bacteria spread. But one thing that we can do is look at how many infections we have present each month. We are looking at also records of how many antibiotics are being prescribed, and we also should be keeping a record of reoccurring infections. If we have to prescribe patients that come in second dosage or second round of antibiotics. There needs to be a record of that. As well as there should also be, we should be monitoring how much hand sanitizer, how many wipes are being used. We should monitor how often we're cleaning desks, how often we are cleaning a room. There should be charts for that. We just really need to make sure that we know the numbers so that we can help reduce the spread entirely. I believe that these solutions are extremely easy, and I believe that if leadership is in the forefront of how we help figure this out, then they should be the shining example of what we need to do to get this issue under control. As leadership, we should all be making sure to wash our hands, encourage employees to be washing their hands. We should be explaining daily how important it is that we are wearing our PPE and handling hazardous material with care and with caution to keep not just us safe, but the patients safe, and when we go home to our families. This issue is so very relevant to what we're dealing with right now. And of course, we don't want to scare people, but antibiotic resistance is causing a huge concern. 1.27 million deaths worldwide, and 500,000 of those deaths are right here in the United States. I believe that there are solutions that can be implemented immediately. There should definitely be flyers put everywhere, especially in bathrooms. There can be pamphlets that are handed out to patients, as well as employees at the front desk or any training spots. Any training manuals that we have should always have information including antibiotic resistant bacteria and how we can handle the situation, how to spread it, how to stop spreading it, and the importance of why this should be stopped. I mentioned that leadership is very important and they should be the shining stars essentially leading the way through to this project, but this is also a team effort. So we all need to work together. This is a plan that we have to put in place. This needs to be taught to everyone coming on. This needs to be implemented immediately. Everyone needs to work quickly in order to help not just yourself get sick or the patients get sick, but to help bring down the numbers of how easily this is being spread and be cautious for most. This plan will benefit not only the company as a whole, but patients. It'll slow down how many people are getting sick. We should hopefully see reduced numbers, and it should help with the overall issue that we're facing with the millions of deaths each year, hundreds of deaths, just within the United States. I'm aware that in my position as an intern, I don't have much sway in these issues, but if we could convince providers to try other treatments other than simply providing antibiotics, if we could convince people to fill out the charts when prescribing antibiotics, if we can urge patients to take better interest in their healthcare and look into the benefits of hygiene, then we could see real change. And I think that we could definitely see numbers come down with antibiotic resistant bacteria.